Illinois lawmakers modify and enhance the state's migrant sanctuary policies when they come back for fall veto session? Great question. Something we'll be on the ground watching and monitoring. They've only got 3 days, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, and it's going to be some high-flying action. It's Illinois in Focus Daily. I'm Greg Bishop with you each and every weekday morning. If you can't watch every morning, you can get the podcast and listen to that while you're doing what you need to do. But we break things down for you, and we'll be here each weekday to let you know what happens at the State House. So be sure to get the headlines in your inbox. Go to thecentersquare.com. Late last week, Friday, Governor J.B. Pritzker talking about construction's over for a major project in Chicago, but afterwards, where he usually takes questions, a lot of off-topic questions. One in particular dealt with accountability for the immigration enforcement that has been continuing on in Chicago with Operation Midway Blitz. And this is an operation that was announced, last month or something, and it's focused on increasing immigration enforcement in a city and jurisdiction that is considered a migrant sanctuary because Illinois has laws on the books, like the Trust Act or the Way Forward Act, that prohibits state and local law enforcement not only from cooperating with federal immigration officials, but also prohibits them from even asking somebody they come in contact with, be it a criminal suspect or a victim, providing a report as to their immigration status. And clearly that's caused some consternation with the Trump administration and the Pritzker administration and the Johnson administration. We've also seen a ton of video content of, clashes between protesters and federal officials and stories of people using their vehicles to block ICE, to ram ICE, to do a whole host of other things, and just the public safety issues, let alone you've got the question still in front of the U.S. Supreme Court as to whether President Donald Trump can use the National Guard for public safety purposes, especially as you've got the clashes between protesters and federal officials at the ICE facility in Broadview, and also on the streets of Chicago and in neighboring communities. Well, Governor J.B. Pritzker last week, he announced the Illinois Accountability Commission, and the Illinois Accountability Commission is supposed to take witness testimony with a report coming out in January. Quick turnaround, but Pritzker says it's a report and a commission that's supposed to get to the bottom of any alleged abuses, he says, that ICE is conducting. Here's the governor Friday talking about that, a day after he announced the Illinois Accountability Commission.
The attack, I'll use that word, by ICE or the federal government coming into schools. Schools now are prepared for soft lockdown. When you have video, and when you have thousands and thousands of videos, they're being taken just by average folks out there who may not want to, stand up and be noticed, but they want to do something. Those should be kept in a record. And so that's what we're doing. Nothing illegal about any of that. We've also asked for review and testimony, and we've asked federal judges to help us do that. So everything here is according to the law and according to what we think is appropriate for maintaining our constitutional rights in this country.
And the question that he was just asked was, will there be any arrests by CPD of federal agents?
Suggested would happen. What we have suggested, though, is that if we keep records and that eventually the Congress will hold people accountable, that's probably the first thing that could happen because there's an election in 2026. The second thing that could happen is that the federal government, leaders in the federal government, leadership of the executive branch could change. Certainly people in those positions can change, and perhaps they will take action based upon the facts that we are gathering.
So a lot of the back and forth on this is based off media reports and viral videos that people are taking on the streets, things that Pritzker has encouraged people to do. And if you are on X, you can see yourself some of what these federal officials have to say about these instances, including Gregory Bavino, Commander Operation at Large for ICE. He tags the Assistant Secretary of the Department of Homeland Security, Tricia McLaughlin, who tagged the Chicago Tribune, says the reporter, quote unquote, somehow, exclamation point, left out the part in this particular story that she was sharing of how a woman grabbed at a law enforcement officer's face, put her hands on him, and tried to obstruct officers. Obvious activism masquerading as journalism, she said. And you can see here some of the video of a woman going up to an ICE officer and laying her hands on him and grabbing the face and trying to rip a mask off. That is, I mean, you're getting into the personal space and starting to grab at somebody's face. While the Chicago Tribune reporter reported that that individual was thrown to the ground and detained, but you've got the Assistant Secretary of the Department of Homeland Security saying that the journalists left that part out. And Gregory Bavino saying there always seems to be journalists leaving out the assault part, don't they? The rioter attacked our agent attempting to unmask him. We are currently working to identify and prosecute her. Stay tuned. Hashtag FAFO. Hashtag DHS. So obviously this is ongoing, as you've got Bavino also talking about Operation Midway Blitz and saying that's convicted not once but twice for indecent solicitation of a child in 2016 and 2022. This illegal alien from Honduras has no business living in the U.S. Thanks to Border Patrol agents with Operation Midway Blitz in Chicago, he won't be preying on American children anymore. Arrested 10/17, and you can see the image there that Bavino shared on X. So you can get some of the latest directly from the source there on X. But you've got the question of what Illinois could do to further impede federal officials from enforcing federal immigration law, and the question of what will the State House do. And some are looking to say, hey, children of non-citizens, children who may be non-citizens themselves, maybe they can go to school, but some are thinking of, hey, up in Chicago, we should allow for immigrant children to not have to go to school and do remote learning. And I think the governor was asked about that late last week at an unrelated event. Here's what he had to say.
The attack, I'll use that word, by ICE or the federal government coming into schools. Schools now are prepared for soft lockdowns. They know how to prevent kids from being taken out of schools. And then you've seen lots of neighborhood programs that have developed to support the parents also. So those are all things that are in effect. We're supporting the organizations at the local level, as you know, that are warning people when things are happening in their communities. And so that entire system that's been put together is one that the state continues to support. So we think that's the best way to go. Remember, very importantly, I think one thing we learned during COVID is that remote learning really has a deleterious effect on kids' ability to get the kind of education that they need. And so we want to do everything we can to keep kids in school where they are safer, frankly, than when they're wandering around in the community. And so that's what we're focused on, is making sure they get the best education possible, and that's really done in the classroom.
So interesting to hear the governor maybe not a fan of having children remote learn, noting that in COVID, even though he ordered schools closed, they found that that was not the best to have good outcomes for children in schools. And then you have the question of what kinds of things the legislature may be able to do to expand the state's migrant sanctuary policy. Something the governor is looking at. And again, fall veto session starts Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday. It's the final 3 days they have scheduled session for the year. Here's what the governor had to say.
I think you've seen this at our houses of worship, at our schools. People are gathering in communities. The number of whistles that have been sold to people who are walking around and ready to blow the whistle when they see something bad happening in the community because there's a federal agent wandering around stopping people because their skin is brown or black. The number of people that are trying to protect and do their, I think, civic duty has grown exponentially, and I'm really proud of that and proud of the people of Chicago and the entire region.
So the governor talking about the activities of the community, but what will the State House do about the state's migrant sanctuary policies? Republicans say It needs to be reversed, and they just need to cooperate with federal officials. And federal officials say they're flooding the zone because of the state's migrant sanctuary policies, leading to the ongoing videos we're seeing. A flood, I'm sure, of testimony that's going to come into the Illinois Accountability Commission and so on. But back to DHS, they had this to say just a few days ago. News release: Cicero or Sicario, a day of crashes. October 24th, 2025, despite one of the most violent days during Operation Midway Blitz. And when you've got DHS saying law enforcement arrested multiple illegal aliens. They faced one of the most violent days since beginning Operation Midway Blitz. In a laundromat, U.S. Border Patrol was conducting immigration enforcement operations when one female U.S. citizen allegedly threatened a law enforcement officer after stating she would put a hit on Gregory Bovino. The incident's being investigated by the FBI. And then they go through a slew of other instances and quotes from officials and more. You can find that at dhs.gov. All right, so again, you're going to want to stay close to the center square. Get the headlines in your inbox. Go to thecentersquare.com. Also, wake up with us here with Illinois in Focus, and you'll find more each and every weekday morning with the Center Square.